I'm excited to talk today because we're obviously double brokering is still, let's just be honest, a pain in the ass, right?
Yeah.
Like people are still getting scammed. I mean, on eCarrierCheck, obviously we have an awesome risk radar platform. You can vet for free on there.
Yeah.
Or if you have a subscription, you can still vet there as well, but you get a little bit deeper information as far as what's going on with that company. But our free risk radar really does the trick.
Yeah.
You can, vet for free.
Yeah.
For those of you that are posting on the load board daily, how are you vetting your carriers? I'd be interested to see. Happy Hump Day. What's up, Robert?
Robert, what's
Pedro?
going on, brother? How are you?
We'll be on your show next month sometime. So go tune in to their show, Logistics Lounge. So, you've had some interesting phone calls yesterday with another brokerage about, they were talking to some double brokers. Talk to me through, some of those phone calls that you had.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting with double brokers. When you post loads, you put yourself in vulnerable situations. Mm-hmm. I can see fraudulent activity getting to the point where insurance companies start coming back to brokers and carriers and saying, well, how much of your freight are you moving with regular carriers or repeat carriers versus how much of your freight is going onto the spot market in a load board situation, right? It's wild, you know what I mean? And it was interesting. We actually took a call from a dude, right? Guy calls in, and here's the process. It's that simple. You get on, they posted a load. You get on eCarrierCheck. We have a little bit of smart bar up there, which you can put any DOT, MC, phone number. You can type all kinds of crazy stuff in there. Believe me, I've tried. Like I've tried even the cuss words. I've tried all kinds of crazy stuff just
you'll be surprised what you find.
Just to see what comes up, right? And we posted this load. We put in the MC, and the guy was an obvious, double broker, right? And so we just addressed it. We were like, hey, tell us what's a normal day. And we just were upfront with this guy. We said, hey, we're not going to use you, but give us a rundown now. What's a normal day look like? Yeah. And he spoke very clear, very clear. He didn't have a heavy accent. This cat wasn't, in a crowded room. He might have been in a crowded room. He had a really good headset on, but it was wild. And he just said, hey, here's what I do. He goes, I call off load boards all day. And he goes, about 3 out of 6 brokers that I talk to, I get right through their system. Mm-hmm. They don't vet me. They don't let me, if I have a good rate, they'll give it to me.
Right. Well, I mean, if they catch a broker at a vulnerable time, of course they're going to get through, right?
Yeah.
They're going to give that load up. They're trying to get it moved.
Yeah. And obviously there's these huge brokers. They got all these systems in place and all this crazy stuff, but the little guys, the brokers that have less than maybe 40 agents, maybe even 20 agents, majority of them should be vetting or doing something along those lines. Yeah. But boy, I tell you what, it was interesting. He was like, he goes, I call 100 people. I get told this no a lot, but I'll get through to, 5 to 8, 6 to 8, 9, and I'm like, that's 6%. I mean, that's crazy, and then they're just passing it along. They, the process would be is that they would get the load as a carrier, then go out, put it out on the load boards as a broker, and then a carrier would call and they would try to cover it and make the margin that's in between the other margin, essentially.
In your opinion, because you've been in this industry for some time, and I always love to date you.
Thank you.
He's got a little bit of gray hair, but in your opinion, what percentages do you feel that people are posting on the boards versus making relationships? Where do you think that falls in? Why is it? And obviously, it's going to favor towards the boards. Why aren't people trying to call more?
Yeah,
it's so easy to post on the board, right?
I think this is really dependent on your leadership team. Okay. The more you can build relationships, obviously, the better. Right. There's something to be said about going back to the carriers that you use, and just making sure that, well, they're already set up. Even if you don't have to, if you can avoid a load pack or carrier packet, why wouldn't you?
Right.
But it's brokering is it's easiest road traveled, Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to guess, even in the last 18 months, 2 years, 3 years since we've started, I would guess that 70% of the people live on the boards.
That's fair. I can see that.
Look how big Dad and Truck Stop have gotten. 1, 2, 3. These load boards have gotten huge.
Right. No, and I definitely do see that. But then when you hop on like LinkedIn, it's and maybe it's people I follow, but it's nothing but relationship driven.
Yeah.
But then I still hear people or see people posting on the boards, and not really doing much about making relationships in that area.
Yeah, and it doesn't take much either. Maybe your relationship or your carrier is out of the place, right? Mm-hmm. There's always that possibility. They can't get it when your client needs it done.
Right.
That's always a possibility. And this is why brokers exist, right? Shippers always used to just work with carriers. They would always call them, I'm out of town. I'm already on a load. Sorry, I can't help you this week, right? And so then all of a sudden some guy was like, well, I can find you a truck, and then, just dial a truck, right? And all of a sudden, here we go.
I think one of my favorite things is, because you always say you're only as good as the questions that you ask. Maybe one of your carriers can't pick them. They don't have the capacity today, right? I think one of my favorite questions that brokers ask is, well, you know anyone else in the area?
Yeah.
Because if you're already working with a great carrier, I'm sure they know other great carriers.
Oh, they've got to.
Right? You got a good relationship with this guy. I mean, obviously, this is your go-to, but if he's not able to do it for you, I'm sure he's got a buddy, a friend, whatever. But
especially, it seems like more so in the South, too. Mm-hmm. In the South, they always have a friend. They always have somebody. And that was how you used to build those relationships. Now everything is transactionally. Not everything. There's a weirdly large market that's contractual, that carriers are on the same thing. It's a huge market. But today we're talking about fraudulent activity, and that market is kind of shielded. That market's not, I mean, occasionally there's fraudulent stuff, but that's, you got a rogue driver that went awry and took a meat load, right? But that was under contract with this carrier, those things, right? Where the issues are really lying, and I would guess it's the 80-20 rule, is that it's that spot market transactional brokers that are out there that are exposing themselves to this, right? And so you even run into, like, I think this is wild too. Freightwaves published this article, John Gallagher. John Gallagher is based in Washington, D.C., specializes in regulation and legislation. I mean, this cat knows how to write an article, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a writer, so good for this cat. Yeah. But he really just said, he goes, federal regulators have told Congress that the administration is struggling to get a handle on broker fraud due to lack of data, as well as jurisdiction issues. We don't even have to read the rest of the article. This is going to go on for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Until it gets big enough or it becomes a sore in somebody's side. Man, there's some big issues. You know what I mean? These load boards have got to, help. You know what I mean? The FMCSA is obviously struggling. I mean, it even goes into while the agency has received multiple expressions of concern from stakeholders regarding fraud related to double brokering, and stakeholders are, let's be honest, these are going to be large CEOs. I mean, they're huge CEOs that are dealing with this all the time. There's going to be the guys that go out to Congress and lobby for them. There'll be the lobbyists and things like that. But these are, stakeholders are big name people representing big amounts of money, right? Regarding related to double brokering, it lacks data to quantify or confirm a safety impact, the FMCSA reported. Woo! Man, I tell you what, we have got an uphill battle. Now, this was just published.
I mentioned to you before we went live, we were chatting, what is that data? What's it look like? What do they look for? Do you think the load board has that data to maybe provide?
I don't know if they have that deep of data. If you go into, there was a couple other articles that we found that our programmers found. Incredible programmers, by the way. I swear to God, our programmers could solve this issue. If you gave those two, they're like friggin', they're like Mr. Miyagi and MacGyver mixed into one. You give them duct tape and a computer and a weird situation, they'll figure it out. We're in that moment. They need two rogue guys that can help them. So if the FMCSA is watching, call our programmers. They'll probably figure this out.
Right.
But I don't know if the load boards have this data well enough. They should know.
Right.
I mean, they have an idea. Like if you just look at the risk rater, there's hundreds of thousands of people, right, that are in the data source, and the process is really simple, right? These people call and act as like they're carriers.
Right.
Then they go out and act like brokers, and they send it out to carriers. Yep. Right? This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about, any other aspect. We're talking about that specifically, right? And boy, I tell you what, I mean, you would think the load boards kind of have a idea, but there's a lot of noise on their boards as well because they're getting so much activity.
Right.
Right. So maybe I don't know how maybe they calm the noise down. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. That's the question of the day. How do you calm the noise? And
how do you calm that noise down?
Obviously, we came through this overnight, so this is why we have eCarrierCheck.
Yeah.
We have an awesome risk radar.
I do think there's something to be said about there is
What's
a
up,
process.
Jerome?
There's a process in place that's missing.
Okay.
If there's jurisdiction and data issues, then those things need to be solved first.
Right.
Let's get a process in place to get the water to stop leaking through the friggin' dam. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so maybe that process goes old school. Maybe that process is very driven by one organization that could be independently driven.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of, there's a lot to look at here,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody independently needs to do this. Now, I don't know if it's somebody in this industry.
Right.
Maybe somebody that has guidance from people in this industry, but
right. Especially carriers like me who hasn't pulled in for an inspection. That doesn't mean fake or going to steal your freight. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, this cat, Jerome this is the guy that's actually out there working, that's getting affected by this too.
Mm-hmm.
Jerome, I'd be curious too, man, like how much, you don't have an inspection on any given week. If you make, 20 calls to get loads, of those 20 calls, how many of them are you're rejected from because you don't have an inspection? I'd be curious to know that.
Mm-hmm.
There's some honest people that are having some honest mistakes from some of these risk radars that are out there. There's a lot of risk radars out there.
Mm-hmm.
We're one of them, and I don't know if you need to let that make your full decision for you. Right? There's people like Jerome that are out there that are actually working that take pride in their equipment, take pride in their service, take pride in them showing up on time. And, you know what I mean?
And there's the thing too, and this is why a phone call and questions go a long way. We've met with Jerome. Now we don't broker, but if we did, we'd use him. Yeah. You know what I mean? We got the chance to meet him. Here's story. It's the little things like that could really help you build a relationship. Mm-hmm. But I feel for him for sure.
I do too. And there's only, Jerome just has to kind of keep chucking those miles until he gets that inspection, that infamous inspection. Probably 19, an inspection requirement needs to go away. Yeah, I would agree, Robert. I think that it's a vital sign. You know what I mean? If you're showing that you've got 12 power units and 0 inspections, mm-hmm. either you're the best local hauler that goes around these things, or there's something maybe more fishy than normal, right? And there's some layers onto this now. And what I think is amazing about the fraudulent people is they are hustlers.
Yeah.
They're not afraid to work, which, some of America is. They're not afraid to stray, you know what I mean?
They pick up that damn phone.
They're not afraid to pick up the phone and go, and talk about a wild situation. But I feel for, we're obviously dealing with this as an industry. There are some people at the top of this thing that really need to get a handle on this. Like we're talking we're not talking like the Congress is, interviewing the Secret Service gal and everyone's asking her to step down because there was a guy that's sitting on top of a building. Right. But we're almost at that point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're not DT, just, Donald Trump here getting shot, but man, this is costing them, this is costing billions of dollars.
For sure.
And so somebody's got to get a handle on this. Mm-hmm. I got to tell you something. This is just a pet peeve of mine. I don't know why. And I'm going to go completely off kilter here. Tigran, what's up, brother? Hey, Tigran asked one of the better questions I think I've had emailed to me. I got to give it up for this cat, right? Tigran is a broker. He's out in California. Good dude, just getting off his feet. I like this guy. He's a hardworking guy, right? And he asked this interesting question. He goes, "Hey, I just got an RFP. And I'm not sure what to do with it." He goes, "Should I just, swing for the fences and do the whole thing? Or should I just do some of it?" And this question is probably one of the more interesting questions. Because, let's say that he bids on all of it and he gets more than he can bite off and then he fails,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's a real thing,
Yeah.
right? And I loved his approach. He was like, "Hey, I want to grow at a steady pace.
Yep.
I'm going to bid, what I can bid and go." And Tigran, I got to give it up, brother. Happy Wednesday to you. I appreciate that you do that. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Back to Jerome, though. Take a look at this. Half of his friggin' calls, he gets rejected. Man, it's getting harder and harder as these risk radars get either more complex or maybe complex in ways that they're not feeling it from Jerome's seat.
Right.
You know what I mean? How do we get Jerome eCarrierCheck verified,
yeah.
so that everybody knows, hey, this is Jerome. He's, this is his VIN number. This is his equipment. This is where he lives. This is his shop. These are his vendors that you can call to verify that he actually did it. Right? We all have to take a look at this process and say, how do we get Jerome, who wants to work, who does quality work, who shows up, has clean equipment, right? Best zero inspection carrier we know.
I was just about to say that, right?
Cheers, Jerome.
We talk about processes, talk about the process that brokers are, let's just say, are looking into today for as far as like double brokering. We have an insane amount of data on eCarrierCheck to help you. What are brokers looking at as far as trying to spot, sketchy carriers, double brokers, right?
It used to be. This is so funny because Robert said, "I'll authorize a search of my sock drawer to help prove I'm not a double broker if that's what they want." Honestly, I would be curious, Adam. Are you a short sock guy or are you a long sock guy?
And are they white or black? I was getting crap for having black socks.
I love
Josh. What's up, man?
I've got black socks. I listened to an entire podcast the other day about how you can literally judge how old people are based upon their socks.
Oh,
it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It was just kind of something that was kind of whimsical a little bit, but very entertaining. Let us know if you're a short or long sock guy.
What's up, Josh? I saw your video. I started watching your video with Dan Deegan last night. I'll have to finish it, but he was on with Dan Deegan.
Yeah, I love this guy. He's a grinder, man.
Oh, yeah.
He just goes out and does what he does.
Not afraid to pick up the phone. That's what I love.
Not afraid to pick up the phone. White ankle socks every day, all day.
Dang, I need to get white socks.
I like black.
So did I, but I'm getting shit for it.
I don't think you should. I like black socks. I remember as a kid, all they had was white.
Really?
And then, this is dating things. For some odd reason, they just had white socks. And then I saw a pair of black socks, and I was like, whoa,
these are cool.
Of course, I came from a family that I was probably wearing hand-me-down socks for years. Right. That doesn't even count. Either way,
back to
trucking. Something I think is interesting is on these risk radars that everyone kind of takes a lot of things into consideration.
Yeah.
Some of these companies are getting more in depth. The highway guys are doing, they're doing like, tracking IP addresses, things like that. There's a lot of data that's being consumed by them. There's a lot of variables with all of these companies, but at the same time, all of them are trying to help or assist brokers in making better decisions. Right. But if you look at our risk radar, right, we look at a lot of things such as what's your email address? How many inspections do you have? And we actually lay it out very, very clearly. In fact, if you go into let's go into this cat. Let me show you 305-8194. It's just some cat out in California, okay? He's out of Fresno. He's got 6 power units, no inspections, a couple crashes, 3 matching, right? But if you look at our, go into it. Can you go into it without it going crazy? Take a look at this. We want to show you everything. We want to show you hey, did the address change in the last year? Did the phone numbers change in the last year? You know, there are patterns, right? To people, there's a lot of patterns when it comes to, well, here's some of the clues that they're leaving along the way, right? We're just trying to be online detectives, sleuths, right? And so what we do is we come in here and we show you their risk radar. Hey, this cat hasn't had an inspection in the last 12 months. You know, he changed his phone number. He's had more than one crash within the last 2 years, right? Equipment has been used by 2 other companies, right? So we take into consideration a lot of things. It looks like maybe this guy, look, physical address changed a year ago, right? We haven't seen inspections since it was bought, though.
Right.
So what's that mean? I mean, he's obviously not doing what he did before. We show these matching companies, which I think is interesting. You know, and in our matching sector, you know, in this particular case, if you go into that, you know, you'll see, go click back into it real quick for me. Look at this. We'll show you, hey, you know, there's an address match here, or there's equipment match, which all kind of come into play of, you know, people buy used equipment.
Right.
It is what it is.
But like it comes back to ask the right questions, right?
Exactly.
Did you buy some equipment?
Yeah.
Right.
Tell us about it, right? We'll also show you their cargo fleet and then, you know, when were those inspections done. So this is something that I think is a neat layer. Click back over to the cargo fleet. Yeah. So take a look at this. I mean, we haven't seen anything out of this cat for a year.
Yeah, last year.
You know, and here's what he was driving. And so we try to help you make decisions. We're not the end all be all, but hey, we're going to give you a pretty good idea. Should you feel good about this or confident about this?
Big believer in like listening to your gut feeling, right? We got the data to show you to help your gut make that right decision.
Right.
So, you know, I think we show lots of good data to help you make that decision. You know, I had an interesting call this morning just right before we hopped on here was, well, do we show how many times carriers drop a load? You know, they said they can't do it. You know, we don't. But what we could do is keep you at least organized or keep you updated on, you know, those people that are calling in on your freight.
Right.
So one of my favorite things on eCarrierCheck is making or building a list.
Yeah.
Leaving notes on carriers. You know, if you have a good carrier, write your notes in there.
Yeah, put it in the notes for sure.
You know, say this guy's amazing. He's great to work with. You know, he can only haul, you know, Monday through Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he's got a weekend job, whatever it may be. But we also have that ability to start flagging double brokers, and then you can build your list from there. And I can give you a really good example because I love doing this. We used to have a double broker list. So every carrier, now this is just, these are double brokers that I stole from another company.
Yeah.
So they've vetted them. They've had conversations with them. I'm not just throwing all these guys on.
And there's a ton of these lists out there,
right?
On Reddit or on, there's a tons of these lists out there.
But look how many lists you could make here. You know, there's your reefer list in Chicago, right? These are guys you're trying to use, and instead of going to the load board, well, let's send these cats an email. You're in the area, you got capacity, or let's call them up. Hey, we worked in the past.
Yeah,
you're set up with these guys.
Yeah,
let's call them up. So that's what I love about eCarrierCheck is let's keep you organized, let's keep you safe, let's keep you on track.
Even if you can, I mean, let's be honest. If you can avoid going to the load board, you know, 20% less next week.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just you know, go back to those repeat. We've had the guys on from Texas.
Oh yeah, American Diamond.
And these guys, talk about a class act. I loved how they did this. You know, they have their own private little board.
Yep.
And every load, instead of it going out to their, you know, these bid boards, these load boards, they're sending it out to all these carriers they've already used. They already have experience with. And there's just a quick process change that says, hey, here's how we do it. Now, not everybody has that technology, right? They have incredible technology. But take the time to think through, well, how would I do this in a better way? And this, you're right, do the list functionality. Oh, hey, I got more Arkansas loads. Let me email my Arkansas guys.
And what they have set up too over there, they have a very detailed, all right, this carrier ran this lane for us.
Yeah.
This carrier, you know, did this and that, right? So they have a very detailed, and you can easily manage that manually if you're staying on top of your shit. But I think it's a really good platform what they got going on over there. Let's see what Josh said. I had a few conversations with the carriers of the software who have profiles like this. What I found out with a few that I spoke with was they have started driving for a company under the MC due to not being able to get freight. This probably is.
The
This
squeeze
probably isn't the standard, but I think it's something to think about.
Yeah. The squeeze is getting real.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's just say, I'm going to throw out Jerome here for a second. What if that number becomes 75% next week?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of 50% of every, all of his calls, all of a sudden now he's having to work, 25% harder. It goes to 75%. That's going to squeeze him out, right? So we've got an issue as an industry that we've got to solve, and that we've got to take very serious, because you got good companies that do good work, and they just can't get it pulled. They can't pull it across the finish line.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
100%, man. Well,
in an unfair way.
Yeah,
and that's what sucks, is these guys are willing to work, but then they end up, like Josh is saying, they end up going to work for another company because they are getting pushed into that.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, 100%. Did we miss anything?
This article says it all in the first sentence.
Yeah.
Due to lack of data and jurisdictional issues, they gotta change that.
Yeah.
And they gotta do it on the hop.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because this has now become billions of dollars, which will then lead into potentially even further, right? It used to just be, hey, watch it. You may get double brokered by, one of the OGs of double brokering. They would step up though and do what they did, right? But now we've got a huge fire. There's a humongous fire, and there's no containment at this point.
Just roasting marshmallows, man.
We're roasting marshmallows, bro. So, I think that's a beautiful thing with eCarrierCheck. We offer a free risk radar. We're here to help you make some of those decisions. You can just get on our website, type in an MC or a DOT, and we will show you what we think of them.
Yep.
Is that the end all be all conversation? No. But we at least want to help you make some decisions and say, well, what is it about this guy? I had a broker the other day that hired I think the cap was like an 80 or 90% risk radar, right? And I said, well, what'd you do? And he goes, well, here's what I did is I actually called, I made him give me a couple people that he's hauled for. Mm-hmm. I made him, make sure his insurance was correct. I made him take a picture in front of his truck holding up.
Took those extra steps.
And so he went a little bit further, and I love that. Let's get creative, right? We also, there's other little things. Sean, was it Sean that was talking about from ProStar? He was talking about, don't give pickup numbers until the carrier gets there and the shipper can verify that that's the carrier that's there, right? So there's little things that you can do outside of these risk radars that'll help. Mm-hmm. But right now, for those carriers that are out there, we got to find a way to help them that are actually legit carriers.
Right, for sure. Yeah, I appreciate that, Jared. Well, let's close it out here, man. It's been 30 minutes. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell, because you just never know when we're going to go live, or if I forget to make an event. It happens. We're here trying to grind just like you guys, so sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, vet the carriers. Protect your company.
Yep.
And also don't be complacent. We have insane and rich shipper data on our site as well. If you're trying to grow, your book of business, or if you're just trying to get started.
Yeah.
So come check us out for either of those things, and also we got brokers on our site to help you start making relationships if you're a carrier or dispatcher.
Yeah. So
check us out. Make sure to subscribe, like, hit the bell.
Love it.
Thank you guys again for being here. We'll see